Beni Sancte Spiritus repletuorum corde fidelium, et tui amores in eius ignem accende. Emette Spiritum tuum et creabuntur, et renovaveis faciem terra. Oremus. Deus, qui corde fidelium Spiritus Sanctus illustratione doquisti, da nobis in eodem Spiritu recta sapere, et eius semper consolatione caudere, per Christum Dominum nostrum. Amen. Okay. Bien. Good. So that's the prayer of the Holy Spirit in Latin. So that's how I'll start my reflections. And at the end, I also have a small Thanksgiving prayer we do. It'll be in Latin as well. So I'll read it out in English as well, so you'll know what it's saying. Okay. So, what I'm doing here now is it's the chapters 17 to 27. It's a big chunk of chapters, but it's because it's the second and third discourses of Eliphaz, Bildad, and Sephar. Okay, Sephar or Sophar? Shofar. Sorry, English. I'm thinking Spanish, English, of course. Anyway, so I mean, what is it that they're doing? They're getting mad, is what they're very angry with him, is they can't change his mind. I can't get him to see that, God is God. He does what he wants to do, okay? You're trying to understand what's impossible. It's impossible. He is infinite. He has infinite vision. He sees everything. You don't know. So you did something wrong. You don't even know what you did wrong. Okay, they're still kind of playing that game. And this is important to cover because I'm here to denounce what's wrong about our concept of God, and this is what Job keeps pointing out. And we'll hear about it at the end of Job as well. This is very important. So, like, I'm reading in chapter 15, verses 15 and 16. I should have put down 15. I think I put down 17 and 20. So it's actually 15 and 27. My apologies. Okay, but here's what he says in chapter 15, verses 15 and 16. It says, "If in his holy ones God places no confidence, and if the heavens are not without blame in his sight, how much less so is the abominable and corrupt people who drink in iniquity like water." Let's talk about us, okay? Okay. We drink in iniquity like water. And then later on in chapter 22, verses 5 through 9, you can see it's more interesting. One second. Here is it. These paper thin, these very thin pages. Okay, in chapter 22, verses 5 through 9, he says, "Is not your wickedness great, your iniquity endless? You keep your relatives' goods in pledge unjustly. Leave them stripped naked of their clothing. To the thirsty you give no water to drink, and from the hungry you withhold bread, as if the land belonged to the powerful, and only the privileged could dwell in it. You send widows away empty-handed, and the resources of orphans are destroyed." This is crazy. What's he doing there? What's he saying? Well, here's what we have to denounce. First of all, insulting and blaming the victims. We do it all the time. Okay, we insult and blame victims all the time. You must have done something wrong. The poor girl who gets raped. Well, how were you dressed? Were you behaving very, sexually or whatever? Very sensual, whatever, always trying to find a blame. Were you dressed as a tourist? Were you carrying around your money? Were you flashing it to whomever? You deserve to get robbed. You didn't watching your back at the ATM or whatever. You did this wrong. You did this wrong. You did this wrong. We're always doing that. We're always blaming the victim. That's a terrible, terrible demon. It must be denounced, because that's exactly what Eliphaz is doing. And how about we blame people for things they didn't even do wrong? Oh yeah, we do it all the time. That's what he was saying right now. You're the one who's taking, the widow's money. You're the one who's when people are going home without the proper clothing, they don't have enough clothing, or they don't have anything to wear because you took their clothing as a part of a contract, a business deal. They couldn't keep up with it or whatever. They couldn't fulfill a debt they owed you, and you took the money. He says, you, point the finger. You're the reason everything's evil in this world. Isn't that what we've been doing like crazy? I mean, we blame Jews. You can blame Catholics. You can blame Mexicans or black people or white people. You can blame anybody. Black Lives Matter. Blame the Republicans. They're all evil. All you guys are evil. All the evil in the world is because of you. You. It's just the worst thing we do. It has to be denounced. This is a terrible evil. Not only blaming the victims, but then blaming people for every evil, not just the particular evils they did, but for every single evil. We'd say that about the homosexuals. You're the reason why our society's gone down. Really? Okay. How about the next one? This is in chapter 15, verses 20, and then 29 and 30. He says, "The wicked is in torment all his days, and limited years are in store for the ruthless." Okay. And then, "He shall not be rich, his possessions shall not endure, his property shall not spread over the land. A flame shall sear his early growth, and with the wind his blossoms shall disappear." This is condemning the rich for being rich. Now, a lot of things can be changed, about taxation systems and everything else, whatever you're thinking, okay? And, the rich are, rich, they have money. And yes, if we took all their money, we could pay for a lot of stuff. But to blame the rich for why things are the way they are, can't do that. That's what communism basically does. It says, if we get rid of the rich, then everything will be fine. And it's been proven, no. It's just somebody else decides to make themselves rich. Okay? It's because it's money, and it's what Jesus called demonic wealth or satanic wealth or evil money. We use that. We're rich in our own eyes. We're rich with stuff, but that's the thing we make up. It means nothing to God. It means that you have plenty of opportunities. You have many more chances to do other things, to do great things. And the reason why you're poor is not because you're evil or bad or anything like that, and not because you're being kept down and pushed down, but because there is evil amongst men. And maybe, there is a sense that you could be pushed down with the entire groups of people who are discriminated against. We know that well. At the same time, even within that, there's a way to prosper. And God blesses his children, never fails to. We fail to bless each other. But still, to look at these people and to blame people for, you are downtrodden because, you did something wrong. You're not a good person. You somehow have insulted God. That's why you're suffering. This is the argument of Eliphaz, and this is so wrong to say this to people. We do it all the time. There's another sense to another demon that has to be denounced, that God enjoys seeing his children brought down. He's a vengeful God. He hates it when his children prosper. Think of the Tower of Babel, Tower of Babel. Think of that tower. And it says there very clearly, that they're getting too high for themselves. They're going to be able to reach heaven. This is not God talking. This is Job talking, putting words in God's mouth. And this is exactly what they thought. So he had to destroy the tower so they couldn't. And he created the confusion of languages. First is what he did. The tower was just left there, abandoned. The work abandoned. Okay, but think about that. Just that whole idea of God doesn't want his children to grow. He doesn't want to grow to advance. He wants them to stay little. It's just so wrong to hear this. And I was thinking of something. A funeral I just did for a young man. He was a lovely gentleman, lovely boy. He's a good guy, and he mixed the drug wrong, and he had an accident. He died. And the thing is, people look at that and go, "Was he trying to kill himself? Was he trying to do this?" There's no. It is an accident. It happens. You can blame whatever you want to blame. It's God who makes these decisions. It was time for him to go. Not out of a punishment at all. Because we know full well that our time's going to come. We're going to leave here. We don't really die. The body stops, yeah. But who we are, what made the body worth anything, we call our spirit, our soul, it still lives. We never die. We just pass and go on to something else. We see, our vision changes. Instead of just being straight for this world, all of a sudden it changes to be way out there, a whole lot. I even said at this funeral, and it's hard. It's a hard funeral to do. It's hard to do these funerals. Hard to what to say, because there's nothing I could say that will make it console anybody. There's just things that have to be said, like this death means something for God. It does serve a purpose for His kingdom. It wasn't a punishment at all, and God did not want your boy to die like this. He didn't want to take him away from and He hasn't. But you have to understand. You have to see that. You have to be able to understand that He's no longer limited to here anymore. What He was in this world, it's changed. He has gone on. He's bigger. He still sees us. He's still with us. But He's much bigger, much more, doing much more for God. And we have to let Him go do that, because that's what's going to happen to you and me sooner or later. We're ready for that. We should be ready for that. So we were destined for, to move from here to there. We call it death. God just simply just calls it time to come home. And I have a place for you. And so much. So God isn't looking for our destruction. He doesn't rejoice in, bringing us down. Job was so wealthy. He was doing so well. And so, he had to bring him down because he was getting too presumptuous. He's offering sacrifices for his children's sins. Maybe they sinned, so I'm offering sacrifices for them. And God's saying, how dare you presume such thing? I mean, Eliphaz, he's the mean one. Eliphaz was saying that. He was telling Job, you're doing all these evils. You don't even realize how evil you are. And because of you, somebody borrowed money from you. So you took a cloak or something and, kind of as a place marker, as part of the loan. That if they can't pay the loan back, you keep the piece of clothing, and, and you took the bread from widows and orphans. How can you blame Job for all of that? Because he has money, because he had wealth. You can't blame them for that. You can't blame him, for all the evils of the world. And God isn't making people wealthy and rich. That's things don't even matter to Him. That's stuff that being wealth, that's our stuff. That's things that we think are valuable and important. Just pieces of metal, or piece of paper. It's just stuff, We say it's worth this much. I say you're worth $15 an hour, or whoever's going to hire you on. Oh no, you're worth $22 an hour. So I'll say you're worth $5 an hour. We have this argument. We're trying to assign value to everything, and God's saying it doesn't mean anything to me. The only thing that's important is that you and everybody like you're going to live forever. You have to choose if you want to live with me or not. And then you need to show this into the world, that you have chosen me, that you've chosen the way of life with me. Okay? And that's it. He's not trying to make you rich or poor. It's not a blessing either way, and it's not a curse either way. But the way we use it, the way we live. If I live as a poor man thinking that I'm always poor and I have nothing to offer, I'm a fool. I have everything to offer. I have so much to offer. Even though I have nothing to give you physically, materially, I have so much to give you. Yeah? my work, my labor, my love. Right? I mean, it's the things we have to think about and realize, oh my gosh, how often we've just said, oh my goodness, if only. My favorite musical, Fiddler on the Roof, Tevye. If I were a rich man, all day. You're thinking like that. If only we were rich and I didn't have to, do all this work. And he was dragging around a cart, with milk from his cow that he would, trade his neighbors. His neighbors would give him cheese or give him some meat, a chicken or something. It's just a simple economy. It's just a simple thing. Sometimes you just gave milk just because they were old people and they had nothing. Well, of course, you give it to them. It's just a good thing to do. And he was always thinking, what if I were really rich? I wouldn't have to work so hard. My wife wouldn't have to work so hard. My children. Ugh. And it's a big question. Why are we having to work so hard to do all these things? It's a punishment, right? Rich and poor is a decision that's being made by human beings every day. Amongst ourselves, we decide these things. Who has not. Okay? God no. God has decided for each one of us to be a part of Him forever. Okay? Well, that's a little too much preaching. And that's pretty much what I want to talk about, this whole thing about the second and third discourses of Eliphaz. Tomorrow I'm going to cover what Job's response to those discourses is. Okay, that's interesting in and of itself. How Job is responding to it, because he has some very interesting, um, very interesting point of view. A man who's suffering terrible tragedies all of a sudden, not understanding why, okay? And yet what he starts doing. What's Job's response in all of this? What can we do? Okay, all right. That's pretty much it for this particular part of Job. Okay, so I'll be covering his response to Eliphaz, and I may be able to get Bildad and Sophar's in there because they're not much different. But again, remember, I'm looking for particular um, evils, demons that we need to denounce in us. Okay, so now I'm going to conclude with this simple prayer. It's in Latin. Agimus tibi gratias omnipotens Deus por universis beneficiis tuis, qui vivis et regnas in saecula saeculorum. Amen. We give you thanks, Almighty God, for all the good things you've done for us, you who live and reign forever and ever. Amen. Benedica vos omnipotens Deus, Pater, Filius, et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Okay, guys, tomorrow we'll go through some more and get rid of some of these demons from our hearts, okay? Quit blaming people. God's blessings.